Hello, and welcome to The Pale Beyond. Game, so far as I know, about an expedition to the Antarctic, managing your crew and resources along the way. Let's begin. Start a new expedition. Oh, the air bees cold, of flake and white, as a sailor begs their pledge. That in the dark they'll brace themselves for horrors still ahead. To the souls around them, shielding fear, dividing up their dread, a hunger draws the desperate here. It's one that can't be fed. What will you do when steel hearts break and courage does abscond? I'll learn to live a life out here, out in the pale beyond. That's a very cool intro. I'm a sucker for rhyming intros to things, so I'm intrigued. Begin your journey. Temperance. Not ominous at all. Crew wanted. Able-bodied crew wanted for dangerous expedition. Months of darkness, low wages, slim chance of safe return. Glory to be had in the event of success. Address overleaf. That sounds perfectly encouraging. You're alone in the office. The tea in your hand has long since gone cold. It's perfectly adequate. Looking around the room, you can make out a collection of military books. On the desk is a ship in a bottle. A metronome ticks away steadily. I find it rather calming. The dedicated rhythm soothes the senses. It stops. You hear footsteps climbing up the stairs that brought you here. Let's remain standing. The door behind you swings open. The captain bounds past you to the other side of the desk. Do you have all your teeth? That's quite a forward question. I guess I'll open my mouth. You bare your teeth to the man. Good. Can never be too careful. The captain sits down. It's the little things you can lose people to. Are you speaking from experience? How many people have died under your supervision? Ooh, I guess I'm choosing my character's history here. None. Meaning you're either perfect for the job, a liar, or you've never been in command. Which is it? The latter. Really? Command tests a person's mettle. Do you think you're ready? Yes, I do. Please, take a seat. Thank you. The chair is uncomfortably large. The seat feels worn. I'm Captain Hunt. The pleasure is mine. Robin Shaw. He nods. I'll wait for him to continue. I hope you weren't waiting too long. I'm told it's worth the wait. Good. There's been a lot of candidates. Some good, some bad. Interesting mix. I'm sure you understand the need for discretion. The advert said there was glory to be had. Months of darkness, low wages, slim chance of safe return. That didn't deter you, did it? Quite the opposite. That's why I'm here. A thirst for adventure, then. He winks. I'd keep that to yourself around the other sailors. They might drown you in it. I have a few questions first. He looks down at his list of questions. Were you born a landlubber or a sea dog? Oh, so now I'm properly picking my background. Let's see. This should tell me what they mean, hopefully. I'm sorry? I'm asking where you crawled out of. It's alright, we've all sorts here. The landborn are those born and raised within imperial society. Raised in the colonial cities, landborn appropriately spend much of their life and work within those cities. While it isn't unheard of, those who find themselves working at sea are rarely tasked with manual labour. The saltborn are the sons and daughters of the sea. A solitary culture of sailors and whalers, the saltborn are rarely away from open waters. The vast majority of sailing crews are made up of their ranks, though few are found in the position of officer. Mutwash prove harder to place. A mix of salt and earth in their upbringing, Mutwash tend to live as drifters, rarely belonging to any one group. As such, they tend to be well-travelled and well-experienced, but struggle to find acceptance and belonging. Let's go for mixed. If I knew, I'd tell you. I've been all over, but I'm here now. Ah, a mudwash. Plenty of those joining. Myself included. Interesting. Military experience? Let's go criminal. I think that might have some interesting implications. Only evading them. Ha! Honesty is good. So you've skirted the law before, then? Is that a problem? If everyone I hired had a clean record, I wouldn't have a crew at all. Have you ever fired a weapon? I suppose if I'm a criminal, it's entirely possible, so yes. Have you ever killed a man, directly or otherwise? Let's go with no for that one. No. You're not married, are you? Of course not. You better not have a death wish. One must believe they'll return to justify leaving in the first place. Any less, and you're doing yourself a disservice. I'll let him continue again. We're here to find the ship in that bottle. Interesting. The Viscount. Heard of it? No. Enlighten me. He clears his throat. 5 years ago, she set sail on a research expedition towards the Dead Peninsula. They were trying to find and study the absolute magnetic south. Did they? Did they what? Did they find it? Magnetic south? I've no idea. She never came back. Her last known location was 200 miles south of land, presumed lost to the ice. And we're supposed to be chasing this ship? Exactly. 5 years is a bit late for a rescue operation. They're probably dead. Alive or not, their research is supposedly of extreme importance. Alright, you have my attention. The captain smiles. Here's what we do know. Not one person or thing has been heard from the Viscount since it first left port. Until now, presumably. Until now. Someone was found who claims to have been on that ship. Can I speak to them? No. They're dead. But their testimony seems to have outlived them. Those with more money than sense want that old ship. That's the job. If I don't pick the first mate, somebody else will, and, well, my judge of character's gotten me this far. What of our own ship? We'll be travelling on board the Temperance. You mean the ship that I've just seen in a shipwreck in the intro screen? I'm sure nothing can go wrong. She's a beauty. Greenwood, generational. Not many like it left these days. The Viscount and the Temperance. They're sister ships. Oh good, yeah, we'll just go and try and find one ship that got destroyed in the ice by sailing on an identical ship. Built together, sent out into this world to die alone. Poetic? Indeed. I like to think one calls out for the other. The captain looks at the bottled ship. So, what do you think? Sounds like you'll need all the help you can get. We will. The captain checks his watch. Anyway, I think I've heard enough. The captain stands up. We leave in a month. Welcome aboard, sure. Proverbially speaking. That's somewhat abrupt. Don't you need more information? Not if I'm a captain worth his salt. I work with people, not professions. I'd sooner trust a good carpenter than a cruel sailor to save me from drowning. But alas, I'll see you on the Temperance. I've a good feeling about you, sure? Thank you, Captain. The captain makes his way to the door, and you follow. Interesting. I mean, that's certainly the easiest job interview I've ever had. You arrive at the docks a month to the day. Before you lies a ship. The letters on its side read Temperance. Approach the Temperance. You walk the cobble to the boarding ramp. Beside is a sharply dressed man, overseeing the loading of cargo. Speak to the man. He turns to you with a stern expression. You can feel his eyes assessing you. He's unable to place you. May I have your name? I'm Robin Shaw. Oh, of course. That would make you the captain's choice for first mate, correct? I'm Mr. Templeton. I shall be operating as the chief science officer on this expedition. I'm also the incumbent representative of our benefactor. Do, however, consider myself and my team at you and the captain's disposal. Mr. Templeton, I look forward to working together. I expect you to be up for the task. Some of the layabouts Hunt hired are questionable at best. No doubt I needn't inform you of your duties. You are second only to Captain Hunt himself. Though I must warn you that you have quite the task ahead. The rabble I've spent the afternoon sorting are the same that you'll have to whip into shape. Punctuality, schedule, a strict adherence is what we need if this expedition is to succeed. I expect you to be the organized sort. You would not have been assigned the role otherwise. So, this in the top right has just appeared. It is week 0, it is the morning. So, presumably the game will advance in weeks then. But each week probably has a morning, afternoon, and evening phase. Okay. There is then also a temperature bar where apparently it's minus 10 degrees. That's quite cold. Not quite sure what these symbols mean yet, but I'm sure we'll find out soon enough. I doubt there will be much issue. We can only hope. But your role is more strenuous than it would first seem. Let me know when you're ready to depart. The less valuable time we waste here, the better. You'll be gone for quite a while. It will be some time before you see the city again. A young man stands at the ramp, steeling himself for the journey ahead. Hesitantly, he begins to drag his feet up the ramp and onto the ship. Hunt's description of the ship was accurate, near identical to the Viscount, barring some modern additions. So, presumably yellow outline means that's the kind of main path to follow. Let's set sail. Week 1, 1 week on the Temperance. It's been a month. First mate Shaw, personal log. It's been 1 month since I signed on, and 1 week since we've set sail aboard the Temperance. I'm told the waters will get warmer as we pass the hemisphere, before they turn colder. I've never been on a ship like this before. A technical marvel. Elegant machinery, expertly weaved through one of the fastest hardwood ships of its day. Reborn for this mission, breathing again with life, she's simply magnificent. I can't help but wonder who's footing the bill for all this. Certainly not the captain. Such exquisite modifications to the ship mustn't have come cheap. I intend to investigate further. As for its master, he's mostly kept to his quarters so far. I'm not sure what to make of our leader. I can't shake the feeling that he's not telling the whole truth. But perhaps I'm too quick to judge. As for the rest of the crew, there are now 22 of us, including the captain. Our next port will be our last before we enter the ice, to pick up the remaining 4 members of the crew, the scouting team. Hunt is also keen to work out a deal on a pack of sledding dogs. The crew are a strange lot, eclectic as the ship itself. Sign off. One of Hunt's sailors approaches. Captain wants you at the helm. I'll head there now. He leaves. Let's have a look. The crow's nest currently stands unoccupied. The scouting team are expected to join at the next port. Forecastle. The forecastle door appears to be locked. The door to Hunt's cabin is shut tight. The captain himself is busy at the helm. Very well. You ascend the stairs to the stern and find the old captain manning the helm of the ship. Ah, Robin. Lovely day for it, isn't it? It is indeed, Captain. Indeed. It's days like these I make sure to do my share of the sailing. He winks. He thinks for a moment before stepping aside and stretching out a wrinkled hand. Here, why don't you have a try? You should take advantage of calm waters for once. I imagine you didn't see many in your past line of work, so whenever we get a little icon appearing over here on the left, that's presumably where my background choices have an impact on the story. I suppose I'll take the wheel. You grip the wheel of the ship and feel the weight of the waves in your arms. Use right click to pan around. Oh, I can have a look around. It's a very pretty game so far. The memory in your muscles rear themselves as you begin to move in time with the ship and the wind. Easy. There, you have it. The captain pats you on the back Fantastic. Now try and get a sense of where we are. Get some perspective. Use mouse wheel to zoom. I can zoom out. Peaceful, isn't it? Panning and zooming speeds can be adjusted in the settings menu. Cool. He takes the wheel back from you. I think I'll drink the morning in a little longer. Would you mind preparing my quarters for the day's work? There is much to do. Alright. A pristine furnished tub, secured to the floor. A luxury to be had on the ice. Classical painting depicting sailors doing battle with a kraken. An ode to an old folk story, known to all Captain Seamus. Or was it Hamish? Yeah, not sure. On the desk, you make out a variety of papers, notes, and maps, as well as a sealed letter with a stamp you don't recognize. The desk itself is suspended with ropes to keep it safely in place. Alright. Take requests. You take a seat at the end of the room. The captain joins you. Now, let's run through our provisions before taking requests. To start, there's 23 souls signed on to this expedition, ourselves included. That's 16 free to be assigned tasks, if they aren't already busy. The rest are deployed to their permanent stations. You are only able to deploy crew who you have discovered. They must be in good health and not otherwise deployed to another post. Okay, so this is the start of the resource management and crew management side of things. We'll be picking up the scouting crew at next port. A lot of us also seem to be in good spirits. So yeah, here's our resources. The expedition will end tearing itself apart if you enter the week with no decorum left. We've enough provisions for at least 6 months in case of emergency. If you cannot afford the minimum food rations at the end of a week, crew will become malnourished. Unless cured, the malnourished status will develop into scurvy, a severe status effect that prevents crew from working, eventually killing them at the end of a week. And more than enough fuel to see us there and back again. Colder temperatures will increase the minimum fuel required at the end of a week. If you cannot afford that minimum fuel, crew will become freezing. Unless cured, the freezing status will develop into frostbite, a severe status effect that prevents crew from working, eventually killing them at the end of a week. The sledding dogs, well, they're still a matter of negotiation. Dogs will be needed to send sledding teams out to gather resources on the ice. Sending hunts out further requires a greater amount of dogs. They will rest and become available between the weeks. Now, on to work. Okay, before we do, my guess is that we are going to have to be very careful with our resources. Balancing them and being super efficient with them is probably going to be really important. On to work. So both Corvid and Cordell want to come and see us. Let's start with Corvid. A sailor enters. We found a stowaway in the lower hold. Bring them in. Another sailor enters, leading a young man by their side. You know, you're not the first stowaway I've had. The captain studies them further. You know where we're heading, don't you? I do, sir. The ice. Did you know that before you climbed inside that crate? I did, sir. How old are you? You're hardly a useful pair of hands. Not true. I can pull my weight, sir. Do you know your jaboom from your bowsprit? If that's a prerequisite, I'm not sure I should be here. I do. I learned it all from my dad. I learned it all from my dad. Your dad? He's Ward's son. Followed him on board back in the city. What should we do with him, Captain? Well, sure. Hunt eyes you up. Your first mate. What should we do with him? I don't see why not keep them aboard. He's here to be with his father, presumably. So, we'll keep him about. I'd keep them aboard. Hunt squints. Why? He's clearly here because his father is. It would be wrong to separate them again. Alright, boy. Consider yourself part of the crew. Be sure to keep your nose clean and follow orders. I will. Thank you, sir. Captain, not sir. Aye, Captain. The stowaway joins the two sailors below deck, now a member of the crew. Well, it seems the litter has a new runt. I hope the rest won't mind sharing their rations. What of the father? I doubt he intended for this to happen. We'll keep an eye on them both. I'm gonna try and be a benevolent first mate. I suppose you're right. Well, that matter's sorted. Cordell. Oh, a cute dog as well. Have you agreed upon my conditions? To the point, eh? Sure. This is Lady Cordell. Cordell is here to provide us with the kennel of hounds for the sleds. And our agreement was that she would train them up until we part ways at the nearest island, but you neglected to inform me that you were bringing my dogs through the Pale Passage. I had no intention of sending the pack to its death. You seem to have good faith in this expedition. It's one thing to ask for my whole kennel, it's another to drag them into the ice to chase a myth. Never before has a buyer been so dishonest. And never before has a seller made such strong demands. And what exactly are these demands? She demands we allow her to come along on the expedition, as a member of the crew. None on the ship have the experience and familiarity with these dogs that I possess. If you are taking them to such a brutal location, they will need me to guide them if they have any chance of survival. The humans on board too, of course. Of course. You can see my dilemma, sure. We've just accepted a stowaway. Bringing on another member of crew is a risk, but our hands may be tied. Your thoughts? I don't see the harm in having an expert on the sled dogs. A good point, sure. He turns to her. This deal is already to your benefit. Do you have anyone on board with extensive training in the management and ruling of dogs? Your sleds are useless if you can't control the dogs efficiently enough to haul them. And I would like to ensure my dogs are treated properly. Welcome aboard, Cordell. Your knowledge should prove valuable. Invaluable. I'll have a room prepared for you, below deck. No need. You'll find me in the forecastle, with the dogs. She leaves. I hope I'm not making a mistake, sure. Cool, we now have dogs available. Finish requests there. Now that that's all settled, I have one more errand for you to run. Could you grab the Stoke brothers and order them to meet me up deck after dinner? Hefty lads, red hair. You couldn't mistake them for another. An urgent matter? Not at all. Nothing you should concern yourself with. They'll be down on the middle deck. In the meantime, you should grab a copy of the crew manifest and get acquainted with more of the crew. Alright. That looks dangerous, being sat on the mast like that. Upon closer inspection, you make out the ship's photographer, Kasha Belford, balanced on the ship's mast with her camera lining up a photo. I'll wait for her to finish, rather than surprise her. Snapping a shot, she clambers down, only noticing you on her landing. Oh, Officer Shaw. It's about time I met the first officer of this ship. Kasha Belford. Nice to meet you, Kasha. I suppose there was some sort of rule against what I was doing up there. Deepest apologies, but sometimes there's a shot you just cannot pass up. An accomplished photographer, Kasha Belford won the Fentler Prize, the highest honour in journalism, for her work covering plague outbreaks and riots in the capital. It came as a surprise to many that such a reputable journalist would take such an interest in this expedition. There was scarcely any chance of Hunt or the benefactor turning her away. You expected someone of her accolades to be older, more experienced. This is likely her first time on the sea like this. Inexperience is a matter of interest, but her accolades speak for themselves. The cold game. Picture that as a header. For the piece on this voyage, I'm trying to come up with a snappy name. Nobody will read it if the title sounds like the work of an amateur. I'm not really the creative type. I'm sure you'd know better. Kasha tilts her head and grits her teeth, holding an inner debate with herself. Maybe not. How about Hunt's Incredible Voyage? Too fantastical? I suppose I'll find the right name when the time comes. I'm getting ahead of myself, aren't I? Apologies, I'm just a little excited. I've never been on a voyage like this. Well, I suppose you've had your fill of thrills up until now. At least this thrill is within the law. I'm not adverse to thrills. Well, I hope we have some coming this way. I'm hoping to capture something right out of Kurt Darling's old escapades. That reminds me, he'll be joining us at next port. I should get his picture at some point. Kasha holds up her camera with a sense of pride, before holding it up to her face. Stand still, sure? The captain sent me to grab a copy of the manifest. Oh, yes, I'm putting together a manifest of the crew for you. She hands you an annotated document. Here it is, the crew manifest. We've got sailors, scouts, engineers, scientists, specialists, resource cards, and key items. Interesting. Who are our specialists then? So we've got Hunt, Templeton. Oh, okay, so our character doesn't have a face. That's kind of good, I suppose. It means you can imagine them however you like. That's nice. I suppose we'll meet more people as we go. It's a work in progress. The scout team are to join us at the next port, and the captain's forbidden me from the boiler room. If you could ask the others to get their portraits taken, I'd be very grateful. Don't want to leave anyone out. Thank you, Kasha. She smiles. I'll not disturb you of your work any further, officer. I have a few more shots I want to get before the sun lowers anyhow. Safe shots, officer. Don't worry. You leave her to her work. Okay, so up here we can now see it is week 1 midday. So, yeah, each week probably has a morning, midday, and evening, at a guess. You spot a large man with a youthful gait, carrying a heavy crate over his shoulder with relative ease. Oh, you're Officer Shaw. He gives a bright, warming smile. Jones. That's what they call me. I'm sure you'll get your nickname later. Johns attempts to offer a handshake, but loses control of the crate. He struggles before firmly holding it in place with both hands. Ah, maybe later. Work awaits. Okay, so he's been added to manifest. Cool, so as we meet more people, they'll show up in here. That's good to know. We head in here. The forecastle door appears to be locked. Okay, you can hear the kennel master preparing the room inside. Alright, let's head on down. Can I still... I can still move around, so there might be more things to see as we go. Aha. Two people with red hair, each with question marks. I'm guessing these are the Stoke brothers. Let's talk to the guy playing the accordion. One of the crew, a red-headed man with a thick beard, sits proud, playing on an ivory accordion. He spots you and ceases in his playing. Need something? I was just looking for the Stoke brothers. Emergency? Just a meeting with Hunt. You're speaking to one of them. Brimley Stoke. We'll head up after dinner. You can go now. That's quite a abrupt introduction, I suppose. The man gestures to the cook across the room before resuming his playing. Okay. Call the crew for dinner. The crew have their meal. It passes in relative silence. The crew return to their posts. The hammocks are unfurled in preparation for the evening. Twilight falls. Yeah, week 1, evening. Over dinner, you overhear the newly picked up stowaway speaking with a one-armed man. But your lucky Hunt didn't throw you overboard. Half a mind to do that myself. Come on, I'm here to help. Better know that involves work. Don't expect special treatment. I won't. You're an impossible child, Timmy. Doug Ward added to the crew manifest. Who are you? You spot one of Templeton's science team pacing around the middeck, searching through some luggage that has been pulled from a cabin. Let me look in the light. Where was it now? He notices you. Officer Shaw, correct? Dwight Glossley. Apologies, I seem to have misplaced something while settling in the cabin. A bottle of wine, actually. It can't be hard to miss. It'll turn up eventually. I would hope so. My wife and I brought a bottle to celebrate with. To be saved for the journey back, of course. Well, if you find it, please let me know. Alright, so that hopefully is the first of our scientists. Yeah. Okay. As you look over the railing out to the ocean, a wisp of smoke flies past your face. You turn to examine and spot a sailor with a pipe in his mouth and a sheet of paper in his hand, overlooking the stirring waters. Looking at something. Who are you? Tashi. You're Robin Shaw, aren't you? Aye, I've heard of you. Don't worry, won't tell anyone. Tashi falls silent and begins to read the letter. Trying to draw conversation from him may be similar to extracting teeth. Okay. Let's talk to Templeton. You spot Templeton, looking out into the sunset. As you approach, he turns to you and nods. Officer Shaw. It will be some time before we see a sunset such as this again. The light distribution towards the southern pole is quite the change. Sentimental? In a sense. Templeton keeps his focus on the reflection of the setting sun over the stirring waters of the ocean. There is great expectation upon us, officer. Do you think Captain Hunt is up to the task? I admit, I do not know. That man is a mystery to me. You, however, you seem likely to steer him right. That I can trust. Templeton looks down, catching his reflection in the ocean's surface. He looks back up at the sunset. Quite the sight, but I wouldn't linger upon it too long. We should retire for the evening. It's important the first officer be well rested. Use E to advance to the next week. Okay. Okay. So here's how our resources are going to work. So each week we'll have food rations and fuel rations. So how much can we vary these? We can either do none, but that loses 20 decorum. Half loses 10. Normal just loses the resources. Or high would give us decorum if we had any to gain. Man, there's part of me that immediately wants to put these to half, because I have a feeling that resources are going to get so short in this game. But I suppose there's no harm in being cautious, so yeah, let's do half for now, and then we'll test how easy getting more decorum is. Ship makes it last port. Sledding dogs picked up. Scouting crew and Kurt Darling are picked up. The days are getting brighter as you move further south. Let's continue to the next week. Week 2. 2 weeks on the Temperance. So that little intro there suggests that we will be spending time in other places. Because my guess is that the week number will just go up week 2, week 3, etc. But the bit of text underneath saying 2 weeks on the Temperance suggests that that might change. So we'll get to say maybe 5 weeks on the Temperance, and then it will change to 1 week at somewhere else. There's a rap on your cabin door. Come in. The door swings open to reveal Kurt Darling, all but filling its frame, grinning ear to ear. There you are, Officer Shaw. The ship's navigator is a difficult man to miss. Stature and reputation precede him. Adorned with a slew of apparatus, this seemingly one-man expedition would be known to anyone following the heyday of exploration, and the merchandising that followed. It's an honor, really. A wealth of invaluable experience in such hostile environments. A wonder he's not been swept up to some other post. Hiding away from the rest of us, are you? No, I'm simply busy. Of course. The role of first mate must surely take up a great deal of your time. Apologies for not stopping by sooner, sure. I've been busy myself. It took a while to set up my team, and a great deal of the crew were quite eager to meet me. It's not often they work with a film star, is it? Certainly. It's completely understandable on their part. There aren't many who haven't seen my films, particularly in this line of work. More than one fellow on this crew said my work inspired them to explore the world. Quite the honor, is it not? I'm certain you receive that praise often. Not as often as you would think. I suppose I did get distracted, didn't I? Anyway, I was hoping you'd join me, up deck. Of course, but why? We finally entered the pack. I thought you'd want to see it for yourself. I'll be right behind you, Kurt. Kurt turns to walk away, before turning back. Oh, and enjoy your morning. It's a good day, sure. Ha! He leaves. Okay, so let's have a look at our crew manifest again. So, presumably he's part of the... No, he's not one of the scouts. Oh, is he one of our specialists? Yeah, there he is. Kurt Darling. Alright. Let's have a look at this. Okay, so this lets me see a week by week thing. So it's got everything from before, and the changes each week. Cool. Let's head out. He said he wanted to see us above deck. Let's start here. At the stern, you notice an older sailor at the helm. The old man takes in a deep breath in the cold air, before letting out a satisfied exhale. Morning. And a good morning to you. He eyes you up. Offshore, right? Lefty. Call me that on account of, well, should be obvious. He chuckles. Don't worry about the bad side. This is all feel. Just keeping her steady. He examines you. Surprised Hunt picked from outside for his first mate. I'm surprised as well. He seems the insular type. He is. You must be something special for Hunt to look outside the ranks. Heard some rumours about what you were up to before, but honestly that might be a boon in Hunt's eyes. Mornings like these are about the only peace I get from the younger lot. You should take these moments when you can. Lefty returns his attention to the helm. As you get older, I suppose you learn to value the quiet moments, eh? Let us hope we're just as diligent when we're old and grey. Myself before you, of course. You join Kurt at the bow of the ship. You both feel the temperance break the floes below you. Gripping the railing, he draws an enormous breath. The footing beneath rises as the ship melts an impending ice floe. There is a moment's hesitation before a profound crack relieves the ship, cascading across the ice. He exhales. See, nothing else like it. You weren't wrong. It's something, all right. Look at the ice. No two cracks are the same. All caused by us. By the laws of nature, this place once was dead. And yet, here we are, traversing in harmony. How fantastic is that? How far are we from land? We're about a week's sail from the last known location of the old Viscount. Assuming she isn't exactly where they left her, we can't take smooth sailing for granted. Same goes for this daylight. It won't remain this bright for so long once winter encroaches. Beautiful as the ice is, on this course it's going to get thicker. He looks out across the white. We won't be so confident when the leads dry up and we're stuck here till the next cycle. We need to change course. Avoid the pack. Have you informed Captain Hunt? He won't listen to me. Thinks I've been dulled by retirement. I've probably seen more ice than he has whiskey. Well, we have enough supplies if it comes to that. It's not the supplies I'd be worried about in that situation. People will turn on each other before they let themselves starve. Have you experienced the long night winter? It's not pleasant, to say the least. I can't say that I have. We're only as good as the unhappiest man, Robin. Well, cheer up then. Kurt smiles. I'll do what I can. Thank you for bringing this to my attention. Kurt nods and turns back to look across the ice. Okay, time to take requests for the day, I suppose. Okay, so it's -4. That's pretty cold, but not as bad as the -10 that it was showing at first. Ah, sure. Ready for another day of work. Did you hear Kurt's advice? He wants us to switch course. Aye, he had a few words to share. He may have been an expert in his time, but these days Kurt is one with more money than sense. Anyway, back to work. Okay. Not quite sure I like the view of the captain ignoring the navigator, but alright. I was hoping you'd help me work through a few more requests from the crew. You may have noticed the line pooling up outside. Everyone wants something, it seems. Call them in as you please. Alright. Let's start with Corvid again. Corvid enters the office. Hunt, you asked for a report on how the stowaway was doing. Aye, I wanted to see if the young boy has been settling in well. He has indeed. It means another mouth to feed, but the boy works hard and doesn't ask much. He has his dad to guide him as well. I'm sure the boy's father is ecstatic. Worried sick, but happy, aye. Well, what do you know, Shaw? Perhaps we were right to keep the boy aboard. Okay, so we gained 20 decorum right there, meaning that we pretty much just saved 25 fuel and food by doing half rations. So, it feels to me already like we should be trying to use as few resources whenever we can. She leaves. Captain? Sure. Thought occurred to me the other day while looking through the crew manifest and, well, it might be too late for this now that we've already entered the ice. Out with it. I thought it would be good to have individual photos of the full crew. For your report? Not only my report, it'd be a good reference for the manifest, but faces to the names. Much of this crew have served me for years, some decades. I have little problem putting faces to the names. Your thoughts, sure? It seems a good idea. If nothing else, it would make for a good souvenir. Sentimental of this expedition, are you? Some proper photographs will have some historical weight to it. Well, Belford, I see no problem there. I'll arrange for the pictures to be taken before the crew have their dinner. Thank you, Captain. Sure. In the meantime, I'll attempt to get as many individual crew photos as I can. You're still welcome to help on that matter, Officer Shaw. She departs, satisfied. A short, sour-faced man in engineering clothing approaches. Are you acting daft, Hunt? Not with intention. Not bloody surprised you didn't notice. Sure, this is our chief engineer, Clive Hammond. An opinionated one. What is it, Hammond? We've hit the ice, and you haven't assigned any extra men down on the boiler. You have your engineering team. And we've only got 6 arms between us. I need more manpower maintaining this. Sailors. Many of the crew have their own tasks that they're busy with. I know I've already assigned Smurf on a matter. The captain turns to you. How many do you think is fair? 1? 3? More. Open the crew manifest to choose how many sailors you wish to assign. Okay, so this is how assigning crew to various tasks works. Interesting. So anywhere between 1 and 4. I guess... let's send 2 Johns, Tashi, Corvid, and Joe. You can take Tashi, 2 Johns, Corvid, and Joe. Take the men you need, Hammond. Aye, thank you. We'll keep that boiler alive through the ice. He leaves. A good spirit, that one, beneath the oil and the temper. You won't be seeing much of him, though. Prefers to burrow himself in the boiler room. Alright. Good to have all that settled, then. Perhaps we shouldn't rule out Old Kurt so easily. If the man thinks there could be an alternative path through the ice, he's free to search for it. Sure, meet with him when you have the time. Changing course or not, we'll want one of his scouts set up in the crow's nest. Take care of that, then you'll be done for the day. Alright. Okay. What's this? While examining the rigging of the ship, your eyes notice a figure darting by, climbing on the ropes with ease. The figure lands on their feet before dusting themselves off. Their outfit denotes one of Kurt's scouting crew. Ah, no problems. She looks to you. And you are... Officer Shaw. Yourself? Flick. I'm one of Kurt's crew. Don't worry about my safety. I know what I'm doing. Trust me. Kurt doesn't just hire anyone. Well, he didn't hire me for no reason. Got the medals in gymnastics, if you're worried about my credentials. Flick jumps up and returns to scaling the rigging of the ship. Alright, so that must be then the first of our scouts, yes. Send me up there. I'll get you a reading. The scientist eyes the man's cane and turns to you. I believe the navigator means you to send one of his scouts. The navigator clears his throat and taps his cane. Of course, ahem. If you find one of mine, they'll get us reading, rightly. Okay, so we can send someone up to have a look around. They ascend to the nest and take a reading with the sextant. All clear from up top. So this is a map of the ice. The last port you made, where you picked up Kurt and the scouting team from. Back on Orca Island. And over here, Viscount Island. The last known location of the Viscount, your destination. Alright. What's this? Oh dear. You spot a youthful-looking man leaning over the side of the ship, his head slumped as he looks into the icy pool below. It appears he's been visited by a spot of seasickness. Are you okay? You speak out, and the sickly man doesn't answer. He raises his head and turns to spot you, his eyes widening in shock as he does. A bespectacled young man, shaking with unease. He stares at you for a brief moment, a look of shame plastered upon his face. Sorry. Are you alright? Yes. Well, not really. I'm very sorry. The man turns around and hurriedly runs in the opposite direction, avoiding your gaze. Aw, poor guy. Arthur Nutley. Where's he? Is he a sailor? No. Not an engineer, not one of the scientists. One of the specialists. Ah, he's the doctor, who's also seasick. I guess we'll see how that goes. What's this? Overhear two of the newly arrived scouting crew talking. Ah, Gwilsley. Have any trouble settling in? Not too bad. Can't wait for a chance to sleep, though. A proper navigator never rests until their work is done. Of course, of course. I take it you had no issue settling in? Not at all. The crew are a funny lot. Old Kurt certainly got their attention. Ah, do you think any of them would mistake Kurt and myself? I think you'd collapse from joy if they did. Ha, perhaps. So, those two must be the other two scouts. Yeah. Cool. That's my cabin. Let's head down. Who's this? You spot a suspicious-looking sailor emerge from the pantry. The hooded sailor spots you, keeping their hands firmly in their pockets. Not what it looks like, Officer Shaw. Black, but call me Gnomes. I'm not thieving anything. I'll take you at your word. I expected you to interrogate me more. No worries, I was just setting up a practical joke. And what is this practical joke? Not going to spoil the surprise. It's not at your expense if that's your concern. Have to get some enjoyment around here, don't you think? With their mysterious trap set, Gnomes scurries off to the upper decks to return to work. What is this? A rich book. Ah, you must be sure. Seems you've met my brother already. You're in Stoke, but nobody calls me that. On this ship, I'm known as Junior. I take it you're the cook, then. Aye, and a damned good one at that. Hey, sure, can you grab some tins from the pantry? It's nearly time for dinner. Why do I get the feeling I am about to be on the receiving end of this practical joke? Yep. The moment you enter the pantry, a bag of flour drops on your head, scattering all over your officer's uniform. The hells was that? Gnomes! You wipe the flour off you before continuing. Alright. You lift a crate of tins from the shelves. So do I now have a resource for that? I do. Okay. So resources, it looks like most of them can be put either in the furnace or the hoosh, and they'll give you resources either way. Obviously some will be designed for food, some will be designed for the furnace. Alright. Got anything for the hoosh? There we go. Now I can call the crew for dinner. The crew have their meal. Ah, shall we toast to the ice? Aye. The days get longer, but dinner is fixed. It will see us through the long days and the darkest nights. The crew return to their posts. The hammocks are unfurled in preparation for the evening. You can't help but notice that it's still bright light outside. You notice two sailors passing by from the dinner table. An inebriated sailor, on wobbling legs, leaning on the shoulder of another. Ah, good times, good times. Need to learn to handle your drink, Tucker. Ah, but I'm fine. My mates can carry me, eh, Cavity? They can also drop you. Have two Johns carry you next time. Are you asleep? Shit. You knock on the door. No response. Alright. Let's head back up. You overhear two engineers chatting above deck. Or rather, you overhear one engineer speaking to another. Don't know how the chief could stay down there all evening. You ever see Mr. Hammond eat? I haven't. Maybe he doesn't even eat. Man's not human if he can work all day and night on that boiler. Probably doesn't sleep either. He probably sleeps. I take it's figurative. Right. Aha, Lady Gordell. The dogs regard her with rapt attention as she paces between them, bowl in hand. The largest joins her side as you approach. Try some. Alright. You nearly burn your mouth on the hot broth. It's surprisingly palatable. You feel yourself warming up. You seem to enjoy it. I'm afraid there's only so much. If you want more, it'll be among the dog's leftovers. Penguin, some blubber, fats, some proteins. Fastest way to hydrate them. Was there something you needed? Just inspecting the animals. They belong here more than we do. Unlike us, they need the ice. It cools them through their pores as they run. They'd overheat otherwise. You've been on the ice for a long time. A long time, yes. Strong creatures. Very. They handle stress differently. Adapt quickly. There's plenty to be learned from them. You love these animals. They need me. And you'll need them. You ruffle its head. It tries to lick the broth from your fingers. Okay, so we can now end week 2. But I will go ahead and leave this episode there. Join me next time when we will be continuing on our little expedition towards the magnetic south.